Well, I've unlocked all my skills. I have more shadow clones than I've ever had. In fact, 99,999 is the max. I'm already kinda getting there. Not too much longer. But first, we have a lucky draw. Come on, give me something good. The growth of all pets you owned is increased by 1. Well, that'd be great if I had more than one pet. If my pet wasn't a mouse. Yay, your growth is boosted by 1. Okay then, well, I have not tried a campaign yet. Let us try a campaign. I am going to try throw it out at the items. Maybe I'll get another lucky draw. Or these other things I don't know what they are. Probably not, though. I'm probably not going to get anything. Good luck. The mouse is on it. 1 hour. Go, go, go. Good luck. Decreases the chance to find food and better quality food by 50% in food campaigns. Because it eats everything. Can't help but gnaw on every single thing they find. I think that's bacon. Mighty food. Either that or it's like just beef jerky. I don't know. How hard could it be to find that? I could probably make that. I've killed enough kobolds. I could make kobold jerky. Alright then. So, what do I do with all these clones? Well, I could pour them all upon time manipulation. And consequently, because I got a sync training in Dimension X, and, that'd get me some pretty good stats. Build stuff up. But there are these might things, and I want to check them out. So, okay. We're going to go with it. Clones on planet. Ultimate being. Okay, you know what? Divinity. No, we don't do that. Power surge isn't a thing either. So we'll just put them in these. Obviously, I do have skills. Those seem good. And we'll just go wild on this stuff. There. Every couple of minutes, every minute and a half, we're going to become 1% better at everything. Except for bad luck, becomes 2% better. This is the defense, and this is the regen. They divided Mystic into 2 separate stats, same with physical. Okay. I see. And the durations of these. Yay! Okay. Now, while that is happening, we'll check back on it periodically. It is story time! Hanthor. Oh, right, the tree stuff. So I'm still working on plants. I need another 1,000. It takes a really freaking long time. Okay. Got all the shadow clones made, and you just have to wait. Anyway, after that, then I can make trees. You can't create that much air at once. Make your little helper. Not that they will produce air for you. First of all, trees don't produce air. They convert carbon dioxide into oxygen, and the carbon side, I'm not going to get into all that. Not going to get into all the biology of it, but yeah, no, they don't create air. You don't understand biology. You're just making things without. How do you make plants and trees without knowing how they work? Oh well, whatever. Or do they not work that way in this world? Is science not a thing here? Year 9034. June. Planet Reality. I had decided to stay on Gaia until I could create the plants as well as Gefion. I had taken nearly a year, but I made good use of my time. I hope that your shadow clones are all running around beating the crap out of each other and kobolds and burgers and everything the whole time. You need to keep training. After training my plant creating skills to perfection, I felt like it was time to find a way to reality and return to my space dimension device. What happens if you pop into another dimension using that? Do you still have all your powers, or do you lose them? Or does your body just unravel because it's not your original body anymore? It's made out of light. Gefion had told me that reality was in a different solar system. It was too far for her to reach, and she couldn't give me its exact position. Luckily, my space dimension device had a sensor to find planets with water, designed to detect Earth-like planets. That alone helped a lot, as I was able to skip most of the planets in my search for reality. There are only 5 Earth-like planets within 20 light-years, and the odds were good that reality was one of them. The space dimension device, humanity's greatest invention of all time, could even find wormholes and calculate the coordinates of their endpoints. While the distance of 25 light-years would have been next to impossible to reach at normal speed, by using the right wormholes, the distance could be reduced by a factor of about 1,000. Because there were 5 planets and I had no idea which of them was the right one, and because the wormholes meant that no planet was really closer than any other. Lucky wormholes. They're all in the same distances, huh? Cool. It's not like there's a planet that just doesn't have any wormholes near it. I used a die to pick the place to start. I rolled a 3 and went to the 3rd, or central planet. With the speed of my device, I was able to reach it in about a month. After landing on the planet, I realized the difference in gravity compared to Gaia. It was only about half as strong, so I felt much lighter. I would have thought everything would be easier because of that, and that I'd be able to move much faster. Oh, no. The higher the gravity, the faster you'll be able to run. It was actually the other way around at first. It was you could just fly, though, so, it doesn't matter, and flying becomes easier, so, It was very different than the planets to which I'd become accustomed, and it was hard even to run. When I let my steps get too big, I bounded into the air, and it was easy to become unbalanced and fall down. With steps too small, I was slower than I'd been on Gaia. I could have skipped the running and improved my flying skills, but I decided to stay here a bit and grow accustomed to the difference in gravity. It's a good thing you can create air. You might have stepped out onto the planet and discovered that there was nothing but methane to breathe. I didn't know whether this was the planet where Hathor lived, but it would have been bad if I had to meet her while I was still having trouble moving around. Repeatedly falling down during the fight would probably have reduced my chances to beat her. Just fling out 100,000 shadow clones and have them run around. You'll learn quick. Luckily, I found water and some animals. The temperature was also nice, so it was a good place to stay and train for a bit. What were you eating in the dimensional... what's it? Oh, wait, you can create plants now. Shoot. Just make some vines to eat. Because of the lower gravity on the planet, the plants and trees were a lot bigger than on Gaia. I felt really tiny. Even the animals were much bigger than me. Some of them 5 meters tall. Though they were big compared to me, they were really weak, so I was able to defeat them easily. 8 days later, I was able to move about much better in this new environment. Now then, I was able to move quite a bit faster than I could on Gaia, so my lightness had finally kicked in. Then I decided to search the planet to look for Hathor while improving my ability to fly. While the plants and creatures on this planet were much bigger than others I knew, the planet itself was much smaller than Gaia. Hence the lower gravity. I was able to cover the whole planet in a week, but sadly there was no Hathor in sight, which means I picked the wrong planet. Maybe. Or maybe he's just hiding. Or maybe it's not even one of the 5 planets you picked out. Maybe he flew someplace else. This left 4 planets where Hathor could have been. I decided to try the next nearest one. I gathered some water and some food and started my flight. 3 weeks later, I reached the next planet. This planet was really cold. From my landing point, I could only see mountains of ice. It was probably around negative 40 degrees. The gravity was only slightly higher than on Gaia, so I was able to move around just fine, but the cold was not something I liked. There was no food in sight, only ice. Are there trees? If there's no trees, there's no Hathor. You know this. Thought my chances of Hathor being on this planet were pretty slim. But I was there already, so I decided to start my search for Hathor right away. While unlikely, her. It was not impossible to find her there. The provisions I had left were still enough for another 2 months, but my situation could become pretty dire if there wasn't any food on this planet and I stayed here too long. I mean, I suppose there could be some hot springs somewhere, or a bunch of geothermal activity going on that makes a warm spot that she could make her trees. This planet was much bigger than the last one. Why did you use your spacecraft to fly around it, huh? I could control my aura quite well at this time, so the cold wasn't a problem. Yeah, you already dealt with negative 40 degrees on that mountain back on Gaia. But there were snowstorms almost constantly that drastically cut visibility, which slowed me down quite a bit. 2 weeks later, I'd covered about half the planet in my search. Still no sign of Hathor, but I finally found something green and not frozen. It was a small island. The temperature was about 10 degrees, so not really warm, but at least not frozen. And there were some plants and water. No sign of animals, so no meat, but some of the plants were safe to eat. How do you figure that out? Do you just stuff it in your mouth? Do you feed it all to your mouse and see if the mouse dies? Oh, well, that plant must have been full of arsenic. All right, let's try another one. How do you know it's safe to eat? And didn't taste that bad. I stocked up on some more food and went on with my search. No random god of slightly cool, of slightly warm. The god of slight warmth isn't living there on that island. Whoops, ran into one that's 12 steps down the thing, the god of ice. Whoops, not supposed to meet you yet. After another 10 days, I'd covered the whole planet, and, as I feared, there was no sign of Hathor. 3 planets left to go. There was a giant temple to the ice god, but didn't seem important to me at the time. This time, I took almost 2 months to reach the next planet with my space dimension device. I grew really bored by the time I got there, and my food had almost run out. Good thing I'd been able to fill up my provisions at least a bit on the last planet, or I might not have made it. Or you could just, make your own plants. After landing, though, I felt quite lucky. This planet was full of life, nothing like the last one. I could somehow feel that Hathor was here. Not only Hathor, but other gods, too. And I was right about that. Didn't take long for one of the other guys to find me. "Who are you?" he asked in a rather mean voice. "I'm just a small god." Oh, wait, sorry, wrong character. "I'm just a small god in search of Hathor. Do you know where I can find her?" "Such a lowly god as you will never reach my daughter. I won't allow it." He punched and knocked me out before I even saw the fist coming. I was unconscious for hours before I woke up again. He was pretty overwhelming. I didn't even know his name yet, but I knew for sure that his power was leagues ahead of my own. Even after training for years, I wouldn't have been able to beat him. He said he was Hathor's father, so it stood to reason that he would be much stronger than her. At least I'd learned the feel of his power. Question, old father guy. She taught somebody else how to make plants, and that person is weaker than Must be hard having friends when your father just punches everyone unconscious and tells them no. Alright, at least I'd learned the feel of his power, and should be able to notice if he was nearby. I decided to flee immediately if I felt his power again while searching for Hathor. Could just go to another planet and train there. Only a few hours later, I saw a beautiful goddess. Hathor? but she was surrounded by another god and two goddesses. She seemed to be really popular with the other gods. She sang a hauntingly beautiful song, and the other gods all fawned over her. I could feel that all three of them were much stronger than I was. Yes, this was reality. I had never before felt so weak, and there was really something else. Hathor was probably the weakest of the lot, but I wasn't even sure if I could beat her yet, and any other gods I would find would most likely be way out of my league. I decided not to approach her yet, and to train a bit more. There had to be something on reality they all could have trained against to become so strong. Yes, each other. I just had to find whatever it was. Began to look around a bit for places to train myself. After watching for a while, I found a massive tomb. Maybe the graves of some ancient gods? You should be worried. If there are gods dying on this planet, that's a thing you should be concerned with. Treasure awaits, I thought to myself. Oh, great. Or not. The doors of the tomb opened to a cavernous tunnel which sloped gradually into the earth. It at least looked interesting, so I decided to explore a bit. You're gonna get your ass killed by the crazy father and the others. Soon after, the tunnel forked repeatedly into countless different hallways. You're violating their sacred tombs. If I were alone, it would have been quite easy to lose my way. It seemed to be a big labyrinth, but it posed no problem for me. I just summoned some shadow clones and split them up to search every possible route. I could hear the clones' slightly muffled footfalls echoing back from every direction in the deathly stillness of the tomb. After ruling out several pitfalls and dead ends, I set out again. I soon entered a huge dome-shaped room at the junction of a half-dozen hallways. As soon as I reached the center, all the doors suddenly closed. That didn't happen when one of your shadow clones walked in there? Only when you walked in there. Yeah. You're gonna get yourself killed. Hundreds of skeletons rose up from below the earth. Aren't we already below the earth? Then sprang out of niches in the wall, fixed their hollow gazes upon me, and launched an attack. It was not exactly unexpected. Skeletons fit right in with the huge tomb, but they were more than I'd imagined. Aren't there always? Worse. They seemed to be almost invincible. When I struck one down, within 5 seconds the bones would rattle and form up into another skeleton. Smash the skulls. Anywhere there were more skeletons together, they ripped out each other's bones and threw them right at me. The skeletons on the other side caught them and threw them at me again. Okay, that's just weird. Tis a silly place. Are they playing their rib cages like xylophones too? Gotta have the skeletal bards buffing the party. So, I was left in the center of this ambush, forced to dodge a crossfire, hundreds of bones thrown with supernatural strength. I could see them and dodge them just fine, but it quickly drained my endurance. They seemed to have an unlimited amount of bones, and reappeared as soon as I struck them down, while all the doors were sealed and I had no way out. It was only a matter of time until I ran out of stamina if I couldn't think of something to do. This isn't a 5-paragraph essay. You don't need to summarize everything I just read into a... Yeah. You don't need to do that. At first, I tried to punch a hole into the ground, but my punches were somehow deflected. Some strong magical power seemed to protect it. I had the same problem with the ceiling when I flew up and tried to punch through it. But by time, I summoned enough shadow clones to surround me and screen away the skeletons from my refuge in the center of the room. My clones were strong enough to block the attacks of the undead aggressors, even if they couldn't really defeat them. I had enough stamina to last a few days like that. And sitting here in the midst of a battle with my water and food slowly running out was still a bad idea. The only solution I had in mind was to completely incinerate the skeleton so the bones would turn to ash. Doesn't that make like the blackest kind of pigment or something? The blackest kind of ink is made from charred bones or something like that? I forget. We can become an artist! Maybe that'll impress Hathor and her friends. That and we'll make goth poetry in the graveyard. That always impresses artsy people. What? They were able to rebuild themselves when I knocked the bones apart, but it was highly unlikely that the ash would revert to bones again. Using the big explosion like I did when fighting Gefion seemed like a bad strategy, because I had no way to shield myself from it. How about rocks? You can make rocks. Which meant I would have been caught in the explosion. Somehow I had to incinerate them with my aura balls. When I threw them at the skeletons, however, they hardly took any damage, so I had to improve them. The main problem was that an aura ball was focused at the point of impact. To incinerate a skeleton, I had to surround the whole skeleton and intensify the heat until it stuck to the bones. The bones were hardly flammable, so that was hard to do. I sat down and deeply concentrated on the air surrounding me. You know you can make plants? Eucalyptus trees. Oh wait, no, you can't make trees. Flammable plants. Usually they have to dry out before they become flammable. You'll have to make up a new kind of plant. Hey, the last lady made giant burgers. I'm sure you can come up with something. Something flammable. Make a whole bunch of Bic lighters that are plants. Somehow. So I'm confused about what the rules are and aren't around here sometimes. They made plants that were burgers, that had meat. Meat plants. Did you learn how to make those, by the way? Because you could just start growing those anytime you were hungry. You just be like, I make a burger. I eat the burger. I sat down and deeply concentrated on the air surrounding me, the earth below me, my aura balls, the air, and the water I could create from the air. The air was quite dusty and dry, so the water I could extract from it was really limited. The air itself was also limited, and the more fire I created, the more quickly the oxygen disappeared, which meant that randomly creating aura balls would have been a really bad idea. In my mind, I tried to combine all 4 elements into one to create an abomination that would eat all the skeletons. Earth to change the composition of the bones to make them more combustible. Wait, you can do that? Fire to burn the bones. Air to feed the flames. Water was not really part of this strategy. The more water I extracted from the air, the easier the bones would burn. Now, with my mind focused, I tried it out on one skeleton. It was a total failure. My efforts with the earth somehow made the bones more resistant to fire. I don't know what the hell you're doing with the earth. I don't get it. Look, bones are made out of calcium, okay? Well, mostly. Now, I wasn't able to ignite them in the first place. Maybe if you use the earth to draw a whole bunch of, I don't know, magnesium, that would burn hot enough. I wasn't even able to ignite them in the first place. But then it came to mind that I had learned how to create plants not that long ago. Plants were the perfect solution to my problem. So I created them. I turned the stones into sand, which I turned into earth, which I extracted water from the air to make them grow. The plants themselves returned moisture to the air, and they were easy to burn after I dried them out. Then I tried again to surround the skeleton with a plant. Very specific. We get all these precise measurements all the time. Hold on. All these precise measurements all the time. But when we're actually creating things, it's just plant. So I'm going to assume you're wrapping them in seaweed. Nothing to say otherwise. Covered up every bone with dried plant matter and fired an aura ball into it. Focused the air to closely surround the plants and covered that with my aura to increase the heat and refocus it inward on the bones. Molded explosions. Fun. With that, the heat surrounding the bones went up to a few thousand degrees, and after a short time, the bones really turned to ash. Hey, and you can use the ash to grow more plants? However, it took a few hours for one skeleton, and there were a few hundred of them. Because I didn't really want to stay months in the tomb, I tried to speed up the process with the help of my shadow clones. It wasn't easy, But when about 10 shadow clones worked together, they were able to burn one skeleton into ash. Wait, your skeletons, you need plants. Your skeletons cannot make your shadow clones cannot make plants. As far as I know, I'm pretty sure my clones can't make plants, can't make things. Even with the help of my clones, it took a total of 5 days to incinerate all the skeletons. I couldn't burn them all at once because there wasn't enough air available. After reducing a few to ash, I had to create enough plants to return the oxygen to the air, which was removed by the fire. Normally I could have taken a lot longer, but I managed to increase the plant's effectiveness a lot with my godly aura. Is that a thing you can do now? You can increase the effectiveness of plants? Can you increase the effectiveness of other things? So 5 days to burn down hundreds of skeletons in this room was actually really fast. After all the skeletons were gone, the doors just popped open. Zelda logic. And I was free to advance or go back to the entrance. I was dirty, drained, and hungry, so I decided to go back to the entrance and rest for a while. 3 days later, I'd recovered completely and already felt quite a bit more powerful than I had before my first foray. With the experience gained in this tomb, I had managed to increase my understanding of the elements by a lot and increase the effectiveness of my elemental powers. Why don't you just practice doing things without putting yourself in horrific danger? I wonder if I could make a really, 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 really hot fire. Then when you find yourself in the situation with skeletons, in fact, I think that's what my character did. I think, given the way I set up so that I could beat multiple of these guys in a row before I took them on, I think that's kind of what I did. Anyway. I searched for Hathor again, and this time I was much luckier than had been the last time. She was alone, and no other gods were in sight. Hey, I found her all alone. Nobody's around. Awesome! Let's shank her! Just beat the crap out of her. What the hell? The morality of all this. I decided to take the chance to challenge her before the other gods returned. This might be my only chance in a while. Yeah, and hopefully they don't come back and go, "Ah, what have you done?" As you're standing over the bloody and beaten, just blood dripping off your knuckles. Like, "Oh, I'm sorry, was this your friend? Uh-oh." With a, "Hello, I'm a traveling god in search of other gods to challenge in duels to improve my own fighting ability. I want to challenge you. Do you accept? How uncharacteristically polite of you." I approached her. She answered with, "My father would never allow that. But you're lucky he's currently off planet. I feel bored now, so why not? Let's do this." And so Mortal Kombat began. Like Geffian said, Hathor could do everything she could do, and more. Only better. She hadn't joked about that. In the blink of an eye, a big tree appeared as if out of nowhere. The tree was quite lively. Nothing like the trees I'd known before. This one started to lash out at me with its branches almost as soon as it appeared. The branches were stout, fast, and wickedly pointed. And there were a lot of them. I tried to summon shadow clones to destroy the branches with aura balls, but the branches seemed to know where I would summon my clones even before I created them. Each clone was destroyed with a single stab. By myself, I was still faster than the branches and could dodge them without a problem, but it was hard to counterattack while I was busy with the tree. Hathor already created 2 more. I chose to fly upward as fast as I could. It was my best option. Even though Hathor had made the trees really big, their height was not limitless, and I was soon out of their reach. In the time I took to get out of the reach of the trees, Hathor had surrounded herself with a total of 8 trees, and I couldn't even see her because of all the branches which bent to cover her. Should have gone underground. Then you'd have an interesting battle with tree roots. Out of reach, I thought to summon my shadow clones and fire volleys of aura balls to break her branch defense, but to no avail. I somehow couldn't create any shadow clones. What? Something must have been blocking my ability to create them. How did Hathor do that? Useless again. Not that I expected it to be any different. Maybe physics of this universe would not allow me to use shadow clones when fighting other gods. But you've been using shadow clones here and there in your fights. Your teleport ability you've been jumping around with uses a bit of shadow clone. While training in the tomb, I was able to focus my fire effectively to incinerate skeletons. That skill proved useful in this fight. Because the branches were quite flammable, I was able to burn them without a problem. But unlike the skeletons, the trees were constantly growing. They grew faster than I was able to burn them down, even with my focused fire. But it was not like I had to burn them all down. I only had to create a path in the center to be able to reach Hathor, and my fire had to block the attacking branches from the outside. That I was able to do, but the fire had the side effect of superheating the path to Hathor, more than 100 degrees Celsius. Even with my auras, I couldn't have lasted long in that heat. But I was not the only one who had a problem with the heat. My fire reached Hathor, and her tree barrier became a fiery cage while I was still up in the air deciding how to reach her. That became my strategy. Burn her alive! Burn the witch! Keep the fight at a distance and fire more aura balls to increase the heat. I had no trouble floating in the air, while it would become more troublesome for her to stay in a place the longer the fight lasted. Thor, why didn't you go back and beat up all the people on Gaia, and then beat up Hyperion? Why didn't you learn all of their abilities? Then you could fly and shoot fire and stuff. Now all you can do is make trees. It's a grass type, and she knows fire type moves. I had no trouble floating in the air, while it'd be more troublesome for her to stay in place the longer the fight lasted. I was right! Soon after, Hathor stopped creating trees and began moving them away to open a path. As the trees moved out of the way, the fire also moved with them, so she was able to escape the flames. Unfortunately for her, I waited at the end of her escape path, barely injured and full of energy. You got injured? What injured you? Ready to fight. Hathor, on the other hand, was already breathing heavily and had depleted a lot of her stamina. When I started my next attack, she said, "Stop! I give up! You win! You win! Please stop the fire!" Well, I didn't win to kill her, so a victory was enough for me. I accepted. You don't have to score a knockout? Okay. You knocked out everyone else. Then I started to realize the level of destruction I had caused. Even worse, while it was easy to create all this fire, now it had spread out of control, and it was not so easy to extinguish. Creating with water was not enough. It vaporized faster than I could create it. Suck away the air! The only solution I had in mind was to call my asteroid friends to create stones big enough to surround and extinguish the fire. Before I even started to summon the stones, a flood of water, an entire river, suddenly rained down on everything and extinguished all the fire in a matter of seconds. Hathor's father was back, and more furious than I had ever seen anyone in my life. After a split second, I flew away as fast as I could, not looking back. I fled in a panic. But you're not going to fight him? Oh. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then 40. After 40 minutes, I was hundreds of kilometers away and thoroughly winded. When I looked around me, I couldn't see her father anywhere. I was pretty sure I'd lost him. That was really scary. I was sure he could have killed me if I'd fled even a second later. He was not someone I could stood a chance against yet. The gap between his power and mine was probably greater than the difference between a planet and a star. I had begun to be able to sense the strength of my opponents by then, and I was pretty sure that the other gods I'd seen on this planet were weaker than him, so he certainly wasn't my next target. When I'd seen the other gods gather around Hathor, one of them was fishing on a river. From my own estimation, he was the second weakest on this planet, after Hathor, so I set him as my next target. But not yet. First, I had to become stronger, and figure out how to make trees. I had a feeling that I could not win a fight against him yet. I also wanted to work out Hathor's ability to create trees. There you go. It was too risky to go back for now, but I had seen clearly what she was doing in our fight. It had seemed like nothing more than a more powerful version of my ability to create plants. I tried to collect my thoughts about that while trying to copy her ability. You didn't think maybe creating trees is like making plants? You didn't think maybe you gotta figure it out on your own either way. So I mean, why do you even need to fight her? You should spend more time experimenting. My gosh, level 6 now. 6% better. And these are all slightly longer too. This one these take longer to level up. Ooh, this one's duration is only 6 seconds. This one's duration 30 seconds. No wonder. Okay. If I unleash these, it takes an hour before they can recharge. We got our mouse. But we're kind of all tied up right now. How about monsters? Nope. My growth is actually not all that fast right now. This thing might not be the best way. Also, the time to level up is getting longer between each one. It might be time to... I'll wait till they get to level 7, and then I'm going to shuffle all these to something else. I don't know how important the durations of these are going to be, but I might just go back to regular training. Also, we got this. I'm going to go eat something. And I'm going to come back in time to see if we got anything. You even have a chance to find rare items. I'm not going to get one of those. I think I'm just going to end up with these pet stones. With pet stones, you can upgrade puny food to strong food to mighty food. If you have a lot of them, you can trade for a pet token. Yeah, this isn't going to give me anything, is it? Oh, well. Maybe I'll try some of these other things. I need 2 pets before I can do a growth. Arrows. God, it's going to be a long time before I get... I want more pets. I do. Alright then. I shall be back. And we shall advance to the next one. Pontus, god of the sea, father of fish and other creatures. Maybe he'll tell you how to create some fish. Wait a minute, he's fishing, but he makes fish? What's the point? You just make fish, just boop, here's a fish. Instead you go fishing for them? It's weird. Bonk. Yeah, that easy. Oh, how much better these all got. Oh my gosh, particularly creating. Creating stat is really going up. And how is... My gosh, it's slow. Well, we already knew that. Alright, next up we got zombies. The zombies were having fun. The party had just begun. The guests included Wolfman, Dracula, and his son. Okay. I'll be back. Alright, so I'm just finishing up over here, leveling these up the rest of the way since their meters were most of the way full. I'll just grab this. I could have a 1 million, but my current cap is at, my current cap is under 100,000, but there's a 1 million button. Now, there's only 2 things that could mean. A, I'll be getting a lot of these in the future, and being able to use that to buy more clones. Or B, there's some other way I can manipulate this. Alright, we're going to get out of this for now. Hints and things yet to come. Okay, we've got these synced. Good. Ba-doop, ba-doop, ba-doop. Ba-doop. Boop. Carry those mountains! Moving them is too easy for you now, so carry them on your back while doing your normal training. No, I haven't gained a lot of strength yet. But I will have longer durations when I decide to enter Mystic Mode. Or Might, or whatever. What was it called? Unleash might. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be ridiculous, absurd when I do that. But I'll have to wait an hour. I will. Oh, what is this? Has this been sitting this way for the whole time? Hold on. I prefer incomprehensible numbers. Yeah. Finally, numbers I can wrap my head around. Ones I can understand. Okay. So yeah, all kinds of things. Pets, that's what I want. Give me my rock. Give me my stupid, useless rock. You have to beat all your idle clothes, unlock pets. We're not in a campaign. The stats of these are the same. You created them in the first place. Reclaim all pets fighting. Reclaim all clothes fighting pets. Results. You found a rock! Yay. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. These campaigns seem like they'd be particularly useful. Honestly. We'll send one out on a... We'll send the only one I've got out on a leveling campaign and see how much that gets in an hour. Oh, you can't feed them when they're on a campaign. Maybe I should stop playing her. Maybe I should just play the mouse from now on. I can go on campaigns. I can train. I can get real buff. I can beat up all y'all with a mouse. So I've got fish. Next up we'll get animules. Oh yeah, there's things over here. Steve from Pontos. Your first meat! Now there's everything there to create sushi. But somehow fishes don't like it. Why not? You can feed fish to other fish. It's normal. You need 10 water and 5 of my plants. I don't want them to eat my plants. Oh my gosh. It takes so much time. Oh my God, is to hunt wild animals in the wilderness. After your fish, you want some meat to create some animals first. God of the sky and creator of everything good and right. So why can you create humans after beating him? To create a river might be a good idea, right? So your water won't disappear into the earth again? And how's creating a river different from just creating water? I don't know. Also, why do we want to make people? We have like millions of people that need rescuing. We need to rip holes in time and such. Okay. Zombies in the Tomb. Year 9035, January, planet reality. You didn't leave those poor humans with Hyperion randomly slaughtering them for his shits and giggles, did you? Huh? That would be very good. Creating trees was not as easy as I had thought it would be. While the basic procedure is the same as creating plants, trees are much sturdier and take longer to grow. Hathor had been able to make giant oaks spring full-grown from the ground, but I couldn't make a tiny pine without it shattering from the strain and showering me with sap. The wood was strong, but that also made it too inflexible to shape. Maybe there was more to it than just making bigger plants after all. After spending about 2 weeks trying to copy your skills, the most I was able to do was make some small bushes. Not a bad start, but I couldn't really call them trees. I decided to take a break from creating and continue exploring the tomb where I had left off after defeating the skeletons. You mean get yourself murdered? Why? Spend some time training and practicing first. This time I prepared a bit better and brought more water and food with me. Just before I entered the room, I had the feeling that something was wrong. While I was sure it was the same room, it looked different than how I'd left it a few months ago. For one thing, there was no trace of ash from the burned skeletons. It almost looked like as if I was never there. Maybe the creator of the tomb had rebuilt the crap. You should really find out who built the tomb, why they built the tomb, what exactly you're mucking around with here. Hey, almost strong hit points. And just now keyed into that. To test it out, I first set a few of my shadow clones in the room and waited a couple minutes to see if the trap would activate. Nothing happened. I had a feeling that it somehow recognized my clones were not living beings, which resulted in not activating the trap. How about you use that teleport trick to just go from one side of the room to the other? Skip it? I may have been overthinking this a bit, but I didn't want to risk being trapped for almost a week again. I decided to not enter the room for now, then see if I could find another way around it. Easier said than done. After searching for more than an hour with some of my shadow clones, I was quite sure the only way to continue was to go through the room. I also tried to destroy some walls and make my own path, but it seemed the whole tomb was magically protected. Protection was really strong. I wasn't able to destroy even one wall. Whoever built this tomb was quite a lot stronger than me. Let's check the list for a second. Unlikely. Unlikely. Nope. Aren't these people on the same world? None of them look like they make tombs either. Who makes tombs? Hunt Wild Animals Wilderness. Creator of the Sky. Rivers. Hold on a second. The one who created the river wasn't the father, because this is a goddess. Who's the father? We don't have a name yet. We don't know. Caverns. Now, this is a little more. I don't really understand why I need to know how to make a mountain. I already know how to make rocks, a forest, if I know how to make trees. Some of these confuse me. None of these seem like somebody who'd make a tomb. I get the feeling that we're never actually going to find out why. We're never going to get an answer to this. It's just going to be, yeah, there was just this tomb, ran around in it. I approached the big room again, and I could see the open door on the other side. This is a time to test my teleporting skills will work. If my teleporting skills will work, I thought to myself, because my teleporting skill could not go through matter, because it's not really teleporting. It was risky to teleport to areas with obstacles. I had to be faster than the door closing and stop as soon as it was behind the door, because I couldn't see anything behind it. Otherwise, I risked slamming into a closed door or whatever lay behind it at bone-shattering speed. Last time I entered the room, the door had closed really fast. It had appeared as if by magic. Could I prove even faster? I went back about 200 meters through some other rooms and doors and set up around 20 shadow clones along the way. My idea was to gain speed every time one shadow clone teleports me to the next one, sort of like the Navy's rail guns back on Earth. No, that's nothing like how a railgun works. I tested the setup, and after about 20 small teleports from clone to clone, I reached my maximum speed. To cushion my impact after I was through the door, I added another 20 shadow clones to the other side. I also surrounded myself in a dense aura and made a thick armor out of compressed earth. Is that really going to help? Or is the compressed earth just going to be like a rock wall that you've attached to your face and going to hit you just as hard? You need softness, not hard. I reduced my speed quite a bit, but it was better to protect myself in case something happened than to go faster. It was still fast enough to cross the 100-meter room in a few milliseconds. And I started my teleporting maneuver, and it went just as I'd planned. I'd made it through the room and softened my stop after the teleport just enough to not get hurt at all. Then I looked back and saw the door was closed. That was when I realized I might have made a grave mistake. Because you don't think? Grave. Very punny. I might have saved a few days in fighting skeletons, but with the big room being the only way out and the unbreakable door securely shut, how the hell was I supposed to get out again? Well, there's no point in worrying too much about it. While it was the only way to connect to the entry I'd used, that didn't mean that I had used the only entry. The trap room had also been completely reset and the door open between the first time I left the tomb and now, so chances were that the door would open again eventually. You hope? Oh well, at least I have a mouse if I get too hungry. After going further for an hour, I came to another big room. I felt fairly sure it would be another trap. I could have used the same teleport maneuver as before, but I'd come here to train. I would get very little training done if I ran all the time, so I entered the room. Just as I thought, the door slammed shut and I was once again trapped. This room didn't have skeletons. Instead, zombies appeared from the earth below. They were ugly and had the rancid smell of rotting flesh. Get used to it. You're going to be in there for like weeks, months, who knows. When I sent some clones to fight them, the clones died as soon as they touched the zombies. They must have been extremely poisonous. That meant that touching them would have been a bad idea. And I tried to fight them with my concentrated auras to set them aflame, similar to how I fought the skeletons. Zombies should be weak to fire. Why? Why would they be weak to fire? So killing them shouldn't be that hard. At least, I thought it would work that way. The zombies here, however, simply absorbed the fire and breathed out gouts of burning poisonous gas. Okay, that's just unexpected. Even worse, the zombie which I tried out my aura ball set the zombies around it aflame. Shortly after that, I had a room full of fire-breathing zombies, whose fire killed my shadow clones as soon as it touched them. I wasn't even sure if it was the fire or the poison that killed them. I was sure that I didn't want to come in contact with either. All I had done by setting them on fire was to extend their attack range from about 1 meter to 4. Their breath also consumed the air in the room, and what air was left quickly became concentrated poisonous gas. You really should train in someplace not dangerous for like a lot. You have shadow clones to spar with, so, you know. Oh my gosh, these situations. What if you had what if this had been the first thing you wandered into? Like if this had been back on Zeppelin when you were training for Hyperion, if you'd found this tomb, you'd have probably run into this room then. You just keep doing this. Since I had arrived on Gaia more than 30 years ago, I'd been in really bad situations numerous times, so I could find a way out of this one, I said to myself. Maybe this was a bit worse than my average situation, but I'm still a god, and it was a good chance to build up my resistance to poison. That's a bad plan. How about the let's not get poison on us plan? Do you understand what poisons are? Do you understand all the different things that poisons can do? You can't just build your resistance up to poison in general. You can build your resistance up to specific poisons, but that doesn't help you against any other poison in the universe. It's oh my gosh. Look, rocks. Okay? Poison type is not effective versus rock type. Use rocks. Okay? I had to find some way to protect myself until my shadow clones became strong enough to defeat the zombies. The whole tomb was magically protected. Even with all my power, I was unable to put a dent in the walls. So I thought, if some other god could do something like that, why shouldn't I be able to create a similar wall? In fact, why not create an even stronger barrier? Sooner or later, I had to defeat the god or goddess who had created the barriers around the tomb, so it was only natural to aim for something better. But first, I had to be strong enough to block out the zombies, and I didn't have much time. The air was becoming more and more toxic the longer I stayed in the room. It also became hotter, and the fire removed a lot of the oxygen. Summoning stones still worked, so I summoned quite a few of them and started to build a barrier out of them. Because the zombies appeared from below the earth, I made the barrier in the air. I supported it with some stone pillars. Why don't you just go up to the ceiling and build your thing there? You can make air. You can make everything you need, so why not? This way, I hope to prevent the zombies from simply appearing inside the barrier. Soon after, I made a room out of the stone walls in the center of the bigger room, held up on each corner by one of the 4 pillars. While their fiery breath couldn't reach me inside, my chamber was airtight, and I'd no doubt the zombies were strong, and it wasn't airtight, and I had no doubt the zombies were strong enough to destroy the pillars. This meant I had to constantly rebuild them. Rebuilding them was easy to do, but it required constant attention. But because the poisonous air was the bigger problem, I tried to reinforce the walls with some ice. As I made water into ice, it would swell up and seal the gaps in my little room. However, there's a lot of fire out there, a lot of heat. It's going to melt your ice. Not easy to do. To create ice, I had to turn my dwindling supply of air into water. No, you don't transform air into water. You're just pulling moisture out of the air. we established this. And then remove all the heat while the zombies constantly spewed flame. Because the flames would have melted away the ice on the outside, it had to be inside the walls. By the way, when you're fighting the skeletons, you extracted water from the air to make the air drier. I just want to reiterate, it doesn't take your air away to make water. Despite what happens over here. Don't pay attention to what happens over here. It's weird. Okay, fine. Whatever. Where were we? Because okay. Soon enough, I managed to pull off my 2-layer barrier. The stones blocked the fire, while the ice blocked the poison gas. Alright, we've beaten the poison fire type. I was able to contain the heat within my aura. My aura got hotter while the air became colder. The moisture turned into ice. This kind of drained my stamina, but I was sure to last longer than the oxygen in the zombie-filled room. The fire would slowly remove all the oxygen in the big room, while I created my own air in my insulated bunker. And I was right about that. About half an hour later, the burning zombies began to sputter out. Okay, zombies are undead. They don't have a way to heal. So, or anything to eat. Should I even bother? Should I even bother? The zombies have burned themselves. They are weaker now. They are half cooked, okay? It should be way easier to defeat them at this point. Sitting in my barrier room, I was unable to see the zombies outside. I was still able to summon clones outside my barrier, though, so it was easy for me to tell when the fire stopped, because they no longer died instantly. Don't you get all their memories when they die? Now that the fire was gone, I sent out more of my shadow clones to try and defeat the zombies, and tried to come up with ideas on how to improve my barrier. Of course, I still couldn't call it a proper barrier if even zombies could break it. Also, because of the ice, it was fairly weak against fire. Before this, I'd always used my aura to surround myself and increase my own power and defense. Now, I tried to surround my icy stone barrier with my aura. I was able to take the heat into my aura when I created ice, so I wanted to try to infuse the barrier with my aura. I started by creating a small stone inside my room. To try this out on a smaller version first, I focused on creating a separate aura centered on the rock. I drew the ambient heat into it. It was hard to do, and the rock quickly grew so hot that it almost exploded. Luckily, I cut the aura off before it came to that. Just surrounding a barrier with my aura wouldn't work. My aura took in too much heat too fast, which actually made it less stable than it had been before. Then I tried adding an insulating layer of air between the stone, the ice, and my aura. I somehow had intuition that this would work. The smallest test stone would rest in the center, surround with ice, then the air surrounding that would work as an exchange between the ice and the aura. The aura would take in heat from the air, while the air also took heat from the ice. The ice would become colder, while the aura would become hotter, but at a rate that it wouldn't make the stone explode. A few hours later, I had a pretty good idea of how I wanted to do it, but still failed miserably. The zombies really disturbed my concentration. My shadow clones had been able to defeat about 20 zombies in the meantime, but more than 100 new ones had appeared since then. That meant my situation become even worse. My clones had become a lot more resistant to their poison already. They didn't die as soon as they were touched by a zombie anymore, and could take a few hits. They still only last about 10 seconds after getting poisoned, but it was an exponential improvement, and I felt that my standing here would continue to improve. About half a day later, I was finally able to create a stable mini barrier inside the room. I moved on to try it on one of the pillars supporting my little haven. I really wanted the zombies to stop destroying them already. When I surrounded one pillar with my aura, it really worked. The next zombie who tried to break the pillar wasn't able to destroy it anymore. My aura didn't totally reflect his punch, but it stopped it from being broken at least. The aura and the wind altered the direction of the punch, and the ice in the next layer caused it to glance harmlessly aside. The bad thing was the barrier was hard to maintain and drained my stamina rapidly. Spreading it over the whole room and all 4 pillars at once would have left me completely drained in less than a day. So I added another, thicker pillar at the center of the others, and surrounded it with my new barrier while I let the zombies destroy the outer pillars. It seemed risky, but if they did destroy the central pillar now, the room above would collapse. But I had confidence in my barrier. 2 days later, I was still in my room improving my barrier, but my shadow clones were finally able to defeat zombies more quickly than the new ones appeared. My clones had become really resistant to their poison. About 1/3 of them didn't even weaken anymore after being poisoned, and most of the others would last at least half an hour. My barrier was also considerably stronger, and I was able to reduce the stamina drain of maintaining it. Instead of just changing the direction of incoming attacks slightly to make them slip away from the next ice layer, it now changed the direction of the attack a whole 180 degrees to counter the attack itself. With wind? Okay. I called it my reflection barrier, a very useful skill. It was still slow to create, so it would have been hard to use in a fight against a god, but I'm sure to improve that soon. Then I felt it was time for an all-out attack. I summoned as many clones at once as I could, which is a big number. I had been in my small barrier-like room long enough, and I wanted to go out already. To open the doors again, I had to defeat all the zombies at once, and my clones were able to defeat them faster now. Unlike the skeletons, these zombies stayed down once they'd taken enough damage. The clones could easily keep the zombies away from my room, so I stopped maintaining my barrier to be able to create more clones. Shortly after that, all the zombies were gone and the doors opened up again. Then I had 2 choices. Go back to the other room, hoping it had opened up again during the few days since I was here, or press onward. Do you want to die? There's probably like liches in the next room or something. Get out of there! Because my stamina was thoroughly drained, I wanted to leave right away. Or you could just rest. I decided to take the first option. At worst, the door to the skeleton room would still be closed, and the zombies would have appeared again in this room when I came back. Well, I mean, you know how to defeat them, so it's not that big a deal. At best, the door would be open, and so would a way out of the tomb. Going further into the tomb could have led to anything, even another trap room with stronger monsters. Because of my unique bond with my shadow clones, I had personally become somewhat resistant to the poison, but I still didn't want to risk coming into contact with the poisoned air. So I prepared myself and some clones to teleport me to the door, then destroyed my room and teleported back as fast as I could. When I reached the door to the skeleton room, I was lucky. Why did you destroy your little room? Why not just leave it? You might need it next time you're there. Who knows? The door was open once again. The way to the outside was free now, so I launched myself back through that room and went outside again to recover my strength for a few days. I thought my new reflection barrier might be useful if I could just improve the time I needed to create it. So I spent another 2 weeks improving it until I could create it within a few seconds. Then I felt prepared to set out for my next target. You learned a reflection barrier. Very nice. You became resistant to poison, zombie poison, which will only matter if you fight somebody who decides to fling zombie poison on you. I don't think you actually gained all that much from that escapade. Not like what you learned from previous adventures. You're likely to get into a fight with multiple of these guys at once, you know? They're actually going pretty good on our growth. In fact, our growth is absurd. Holy crap, the next time I rebirth... Oh my. Oh, wait a sec. Choop. Okay, then. Well, we will finish out today with Pontus and question marks. When I went to where I had first seen the fishing god, he wasn't there. Really? He didn't stay in the same place for a month? Pfft. What is wrong with him? Doesn't he have any common courtesy? But luckily, there was no sight of Hathor's father. A few hours later, I finally found him on the shores of a vast sea and challenged him to a fight. He accepted, but pointed out to the sea. "I want to fight over there," he said. I was nearly prepared to fight the water, but I agreed nevertheless. Oh yeah, let him choose the ground. That's great. That's brilliant. Yeah. It also didn't mean I had to fight in the sea. I would also stay in the air. My flying skills were quite good at this point, so it shouldn't have been too hard to stay in the air for the whole fight. Then I flew out to sea, to where he had pointed, while floating in the air. As soon as the fight started, hundreds of fish started to attack me. I appeared so fast I didn't see where they'd come from. They looked like swordfish and hammerheads. I still could dodge them, but they blocked the way to the god I was fighting, so it was hard to reach him. Then I realized I hadn't even asked his name yet. Yeah, also, most of your abilities, like making plants and trees, well, you can't really make trees yet, they're going to be a little more difficult out at this. After observing the fish a bit more, I could see them jump out of the water. They were very fast, almost as fast as my teleport skill. While the swordfish attacked me in a straight line, the hammerheads came from the sides. They tried to hit me while I was dodging the swordfish. It still took me about 3 seconds to create my barrier, which made it too slow to use while dodging my aquatic assailants. The barrier also had another weakness: gravity. Casting it in mid-air would have made it fall down into the water shortly after. But then I had an idea of how I could still use it. Yeah, you could make a shield out of it and strap it to your arm, and then you could fly around with a reflection shield. You know, you can make objects, right? Huh? Oh. Sorry about that. The ruler is more powerful than her. It stays around. It's her true spirit. The real her. Where was I? Oh, yes. Then I have idea how I could still use it. I flew upward until I was out of reach of the leaping fish. Then I created the barrier. It fell down and I followed, hiding behind my barrier, which prevented the fish from attacking me. But although it screened me from their attacks, the barrier was slow to descend and the god moved away easily. Also, as soon as the barrier was in the water, the fish renewed their attacks. Unless I could control the path of my barrier or make it fall down faster, I would have I would have reached the other god. I would have reached the other god. It also required a lot of my stamina. Then I tried calling some asteroids to rain down on the fish. That was a lot easier for me, and I could call a lot of them. Soon I found out that it was really ineffective. The hammerheads liked to play baseball with the rocks and swatted them back, while the swordfish just pierced through them like paper. I experimented with firing aura balls at them, but they just countered with globes of water. They threw out a lot more water balls at once than I was able to create fire aura balls. Yes, but why should the water bother your aura balls at all? The fire is contained inside a barrier, and the water will just splash over it. Why would that stop it? But water attacks were no problem for me. I learned how to create and control water quite a bit myself, so I was able to turn those into ice while generating heat for my aura balls. So I just waited in the air for their incoming water balls, extracted the heat, turning them to ice while increasing the power of aura balls. I formed the ice into thousands of jagged shards and threw them back at the fish. Just before my frozen fuselage pierced the sea creature, the god suddenly appeared and blocked my attack with his body. Stop! Please don't kill them! I give up! Is that really a win against him? Are you really beating him? It's more like you're just holding his kids hostage. Wait, doesn't he fish? And don't fish eat other fish? Okay, whatever. That was kind of unexpected and almost too easy for me. But although it didn't really feel like a victory, I agreed and stopped my attacks. He had probably underestimated me and overestimated his fish. I then heard a female voice behind me. Pontus, you're as weak as ever. Can't even block such low-level attacks without getting hurt. You're a shame to our family. I will show you how it's done. Then the goddess shouted while pointing at me. Hey you! I will stand here for 1 hour without doing anything. Attack me however you want. If you can't beat me within an hour, I will knock you out. I'm pretty sure I won't even feel your attacks, so you should just prepare to be knocked out. Fight against the next god was kind of unexpected. Is it 6 or 7 steps above you, or just 1? Do you know? She was really rude and totally confident in her strength. I couldn't really estimate her power compared to mine, but she sure looked much weaker than Hathor's father. I wanted to fight her anyway, and I probably wouldn't have gotten a better chance to beat her anytime soon. I accepted the fact that I wouldn't have much time, and took a moment to prepare myself. I also wanted to show her that I'm far from weak. Attacking her for her whole hour without doing anything, she must have thought of me as insignificant. To test her out, I first attacked her with some ice arrows I'd used to defeat Pontus. As they hit her, they only shattered and fell harmlessly away. But that was what I expected. Otherwise, she wouldn't have talked like that. Then I prepared my aura, concentrated a lot of power into a big aura ball, and fired it at her. Somehow, it just dissipated into the air like I'd never fired it. After that, I went back a bit, prepared some clones to teleport at her with full speed and throw my best punch at her. And that really hurt. Not her, but my fist. It was even worse than punching the barriers in the tomb. Never before had I experienced such a strong defense, even when I'd fought Itzli. The goddess just yawned while I had trouble bearing the pain of my shattered hand. Now I knew she hadn't underestimated me or overestimated herself. It was more the other way around. It seemed to me that her defense was completely impenetrable, but it was too soon to give up. I still had some time left. When I'd been fighting Pontus, I'd created my new barrier, and then he'd simply dodged. The goddess said she wouldn't move away. So I flew high into the air above her and created my new barrier again. This time I went up a lot further so the barrier could gain more momentum as it fell. Also, you could make some meteors rain, too, just saying. There you go. I also summoned a lot of asteroids and let them rain down upon the goddess. I took aim and sent the big barrier down to hit the goddess with full power. And the barrier reflected itself. As soon as it touched the goddess, it sprang back at me. I barely dodged it. She didn't even take any damage from it. The asteroids I summoned to rain down on her made gigantic craters surrounding her. Everything around her took damage, but she was unscathed. I tried a few other things to damage her, but the hour was over sooner than I'd anticipated. When I woke up hours later, I didn't even remember what she'd done. "You shouldn't have accepted my sister's challenge," said Pontus, who was sitting beside me. "You can't defeat Diana. She gains powers from the nearby tomb. As long as she gains powers from it, you won't be able to damage her." The hunt, wild animals, and wilderness. Gains power from a tomb. Okay. That reminded me of the barrier-like walls in the tomb. I hadn't even been able to damage them. If she gained power from that tomb, my next goal was clear. I said to myself, I'd already fought quite a lot of enemies in that tomb, and now my task was to destroy the whole tomb. It appeared to be the only way to defeat Diana. When I asked Pontus why he told me how to defeat his sister, he answered that he didn't like her attitude. She was always stronger than him and talked down to him. It would teach her a lesson. It might change her attitude a bit. Pontus was quite a nice god. He really liked fish, and he created them all the time. He could form his divine power into the appearance of a fish and let them free. Because they would die within a day if they were not in water and did not have plants to eat, he also took the time to create water and plants to give it to his fishes. Somebody who knows how to do more than one thing. But he liked to form fishes much better because they have their own soul. They could move by themselves and swim in the water. Watching them really calmed him down. Most times, he just traded some of his divine power for plants from Hathor, so he didn't really need to spend time creating them. Because of this, I was interested in creating fish myself. I asked him to teach me, and he happily agreed. A few weeks later, I was able to create my own fish. It was a great feeling to create new life. My shadow clones were not really a new life form. They were more a part of me. Even the plants and stunted trees I'd been able to create didn't really act on their own. So that was really the first time to create a new life for me. At least, if I didn't count imbuing clones with my own consciousness during my rebirths. Well, then I said goodbye to him and went on with my journey. Onward to the tomb once more. Alright. You are worth 3.281 better. I am only, 150 times stronger than you. Well, a little less than that. Not quite 150 times stronger than you. I can now build monuments? Build. Monument. A colossal statue. It reminds you of yourself. You need 2,000 stone. Okay. Takes 2 minutes for 1,000 clones. Increase my physical multiplier. Interesting. 2,000 stone. Make me some rocks. Create some animals to make it more lively. We don't want a boring world. It takes fish to make animals? I was just going to make a rabbit. For some reason, it's made out of fish. Like, it's just, you take some fish, and 3 fish. Each one will be like a leg. We don't make quadrupeds, we make tripeds. And the head will be made out of plants. Because I don't know what I'm doing. It's weird, okay? It's a very weird game. But I can make monuments now. You still need to think about this monument. So if I make a bunch of these, I'll end up being able to make more types, no doubt. Huh. Well, I could take a bunch of these and repurpose them. But unfortunately, oh my gosh, everything's going to take eternity. I need to get my make stuff speed way, way, way higher. And for that, a rebirth would help. Yeah. Plus more of these. Yeah. Well. Next time it will be time to start anew. Then it'll be Diana and her tomb. Until then, until next time and every time, this is Hadrix signing off. Bye.